He came to see me. Dad, slow down on worrying about you because, boom, he knows that I spend time with my amateurs. You know me. Both of y'all know me very well.
Yeah.
Don't I spend time with my amateurs?
Yeah.
All the time. That's my peace.
Tank Davis has just dropped a bombshell on the boxing world, and no one is believing a word of it. After weeks of heated debate over his controversial draw against Lamont Roach Jr., Tank has now announced that his longtime trainer, Calvin Ford, will not be with him for his next fights, including the Roach rematch. While fans have been speculating this for months now, it seems like the strong bond between these two is breaking. Let's catch you up.
Yeah, at least I know where he was at. Because it was something that we didn't do. It was something that we normally do. Y'all with me? And it was good for us, to tell you the truth, because when I stepped back in the head biggest gym and I haven't been there, it brought back so much memories.
According to Tank, Calvin Ford will take time to spend with his family while I prepare for the Lamont Roach rematch and the next fights this year. That sounds nice, but nobody in the sport is buying it. It's the exact same excuse that was used when Leonard Ellerbe was pushed out of Mayweather Promotions. The same lines, the same PR spin, the same attempt to make it look like everything is fine. But just like with Ellerbe, the truth is going to come out sooner or later.
Hey, Tank, real talk. Will Calvin be with you on this fight? Come on, you Tank. Huh? Will Calvin be with you on this fight?
I don't know. You gotta see. Right.
The timing of all this is too suspicious. Calvin Ford wasn't even in Tank's corner before the Roach fight. Everyone noticed his absence, but Tank kept brushing it off, insisting that everything was fine between them. Now, all of a sudden, Ford is stepping away to focus on family? It just doesn't add up. This isn't some random trainer getting phased out quietly. This is Calvin Ford, the man who has been with Tank since day one, the man who guided him from a young prospect to a superstar. And now, right after the biggest controversy of Tank's career, he's just stepping aside. It's not a coincidence. And boxing fans know it.
Like, we were doing a lot of talking back and forth, so I know that he was trying to steal. I know that he was trying to steal because I was establishing the real estate. I was popping my jab. I was making them think. I was making them do a lot of things. And the fact that he knew.
People are still talking about what happened in the 9th round against Roach. It was one of the strangest moments ever seen in a high-stakes fight. Tank took a knee without getting hit hard, walked over to his corner and had his trainer wipe his face. The referee, Steve Willis, started counting, but then changed his mind and let the fight continue without ruling it a knockdown. That one moment could have changed the entire outcome.
So to me, I thought I won the fight clearly. I thought I won a close fight. I thought I won a very competitive fight. Okay. I'm not saying I steamrolled him or whatever, but
Roach's team immediately filed an appeal, arguing that the referee should have called it a knockdown, which would have given Roach a huge edge on the scorecards. The New York State Athletic Commission admitted that the ref made a mistake, but they refused to overturn the decision. That decision just added more fuel to the fire. It was clear that Tank had gotten lucky. The fight was a draw, but many people believed Roach should have won. And now Tank is making changes to his team, starting with the man who was supposed to be leading him.
The first precedent in New York, I think it raised some eyebrows because Tank was by himself, but not too much because Lamont was by himself and there wasn't too many people there. After the second one, there was some questions. You know, Tank said what he said when he was asked about Coach Calvin. He didn't know. But then they reunited. What's your thoughts or any kind of message you could offer? Because obviously they got a relationship that's deeper than just a trainer and a fighter.
We don't know where this stuff is coming from. It wasn't no reunited. They never separated.
If Calvin Ford was really stepping away for family reasons, why wasn't he in Tank's camp before the Roach fight? And if everything was fine, why does this announcement feel like an attempt to control the damage? This situation is playing out exactly like what happened with Leonard Ellerbe. When Mayweather Promotions started pushing Ellerbe to the side, they didn't admit it right away. They made it seem like he was stepping back for personal reasons, but the truth slowly started leaking out. Floyd Mayweather no longer saw Ellerbe as part of his long-term plans, so he was removed quietly. The same thing is happening with Calvin Ford. There's a lot of speculation about what's really going on behind the scenes.
It's not like he didn't want to show up. You know what I'm saying? It's just, I don't know how his body is. You know what I'm saying? You know how sometimes y'all got to go to work? Do y'all feel like it all the time? You know, so again, we getting ready for the rollout to the world. So he wanted to make sure he put on that great performance for the fans. We great, trust me. Y'all want y'all guy to come out and put on that show.
Some believe Tank is trying to clean up his camp before the Roach rematch, getting rid of anyone who might be holding him back. Others think it's not even Tank's decision, that this is coming from people above him, the same way Mayweather and Al Haymon made decisions about his career before. Either way, it's clear that this is about power and control, not about a trainer taking a break to be with his family. Tank knows that his reputation took a hit after the Roach fight. Fans and analysts have been questioning him more than ever, and the last thing he can afford is another shaky performance. If he barely got past Roach the first time, what happens if he struggles again in the rematch? What happens if he loses? The pressure is on, and it looks like Ford is the first casualty of Tank's attempt to fix the situation.
You know, Calvin, he been with me since I was 7. I used to sleep in Coach Calvin's house. I used to sleep at his job when he was working at a seafood restaurant.
Tank has always been surrounded by strong voices, from Floyd Mayweather to Al Haymon to Leonard Ellerbe to Calvin Ford. But over time, we've seen people get phased out one by one. Ellerbe was the first major name to go, and now Ford is out of the picture. The question is, who's really running things now? Is Tank calling the shots himself, or is he being pushed in a certain direction? His fans have noticed that he's been trying to distance himself from Mayweather, but at the same time, he hasn't fully broken away from the influence that Mayweather and Haymon still have over his career. Now with Ford out, it's not clear who's really in charge.
At DC, they call me Mo. Calvin is Calvin. You know what I mean? I got Calvin tatted on me. Calvin ain't going nowhere. Y'all don't even know Calvin for CCO.
The Roach fight was already a disaster for Tank in terms of public perception. He went from being seen as an unstoppable force to looking vulnerable against an opponent most people didn't even think had a chance. The 9th round incident made things worse, and the way the commission handled it only created more backlash. Now, with Ford gone, it raises even more questions about what's really happening inside Tank's camp. Is this the beginning of a full-blown shakeup? Is this just the first of many changes? And most importantly, who will be in Tank's corner when he steps back into the ring for the rematch? Whoever replaces Ford is going to have to deal with the biggest challenge of Tank's career. He's still undefeated, but the Roach fight exposed real weaknesses, and the rematch is going to be a must-win. If he struggles again, the criticism is only going to get louder. Fans have already been questioning whether Tank has been protected too much throughout his career. They've pointed out that he hasn't fought Devin Haney, Shakur Stevenson, or Vasily Lomachenko. If he struggles again against Roach, the calls for him to face those top names are going to get even louder. Calvin Ford's departure only adds to the chaos surrounding Tank right now. The boxing world has seen this type of situation before, where a fighter suddenly makes major changes to his team after a controversial fight.
Tank was the first one in the gym, the last one out the gym. Tank used to sit on the ring like this and watch me train him.
How old is he at this point?
He was like 7, 8.
Okay.
A lot of stuff that I was giving my son was giving it to Tank. So it was a perfect fit. The Tank was like...
Sometimes it works out, sometimes it makes things worse. Right now, no one knows how this will play out for Tank, but one thing is clear. This isn't about family time. This is about business. This is about power. And this is about a fighter trying to regain control of his career after a fight that nearly derailed everything. The truth always comes out eventually, and when it does, we'll finally know the real reason why Calvin Ford is no longer in Tank's corner.
Let me explain something to you. Tank don't look at me as coach, he look at me as dad. Do it look like his son supposed to take your dad? I don't even feel right. Y'all hear this time? Oh, Tank don't pay his coach. Tank gives me...
Barry Hunter's words now sound completely out of place after what Gervonta Tank Davis just announced. When Hunter spoke about Calvin Ford's role in Tank's corner ahead of the Isaac Cruz fight at Roach fight, he made it clear that Ford was an essential part of Davis's success. He called Ford the backbone of Tank's career, the man who had guided him through every fight and setback. Calvin has been Tank's backbone from the beginning, Hunter said. Their bond goes way beyond being a trainer and a boxer. It's almost family-like. That trust and understanding is key in any fight, especially one this big. But now, just days after those comments, Tank has come out and said Calvin Ford won't be with him for the next fights, including the Roach rematch. So, what happened? Did Barry Hunter not know what was going on behind the scenes? Was he left out of the loop? Or was Tank making moves that no one saw coming? Hunter spoke with so much confidence about Ford's role in Tank's corner that it's hard to believe he didn't know something was up. He said Ford was still going to be leading the charge, making sure Tank was mentally locked in and ready for whatever came his way. Calvin knows Tank inside out, Hunter said.
But how do you see Gervonta?
Well, I look at him as the key of the youth. You have me and you have him. Two different work.
He's been with him through every up and down, every win and every setback. It's that consistency that matters when he's going into a fight like this. Gervonta trusts him completely. But if that were true, why is Tank now saying Ford won't be with him? Was Hunter just giving the standard media answer, or did he really believe everything was fine? Because if he truly thought Ford was still running the show, that means something changed between his interview and Tank's announcement. That means decisions were made in secret, and Ford's removal was done quietly before anyone could react. And if Barry Hunter, one of the most respected voices in boxing, wasn't informed, that raises even more questions about who's really making the calls in Tank's camp.
Ford, what does he mean to you when you hear that name? What does he mean when you first hear that?
A father. Father. And then he's...
This isn't the first time Tank has shaken up his team, but the way this is unfolding makes it different. When Leonard Ellerbe was quietly pushed out of Mayweather Promotions, the signs were there for a long time. There were whispers of Tank wanting more control over his career, and eventually, Ellerbe just disappeared. But with Ford, there was no buildup. There was no gradual phasing out. One day, Barry Hunter is publicly praising Ford, talking about how important he is to Tank's preparation, and the next, Tank announces he won't be there. That's not a smooth transition. That's a sudden move that no one saw coming. And now, everyone is scrambling to figure out what really happened.
The line. How's Calvin? How's Mia? How's Calvin?
Good, great, good. Excellent. Don't believe that bullshit you hear on the line, right?
Okay.
No, Tank and Calvin, father and son, you know?
Some are saying this was all part of Tank's plan to make changes quietly, without letting the media get ahead of the story. He might have wanted to move on from Ford, but didn't want the distraction before the Cruz fight. So he let Hunter do the talking and kept everything under wraps. If that's the case, then Tank just played a masterful game of misdirection. He let everyone believe Ford was still in control, let Hunter build up the idea that Ford was going to be the key to Tank's performance, and then, once the fight was over, dropped the bombshell. If this was a calculated move, it means Tank is taking full control of his career in a way we haven't seen before.
Stuff that he think I don't know about. He think he got one up on me. I don't know. He think he got a mold somewhere. I told him I got a mold too. How about that?
But if this wasn't planned, then it means something happened between Tank and Ford that forced this decision suddenly. Some are even speculating that Tank might be trying to phase out Ford the same way Floyd Mayweather eventually phased out his own longtime trainer, his uncle Roger Mayweather. Roger was instrumental in Floyd's rise, but once Floyd felt he no longer needed him, he started working more with his father, Floyd Sr. Is Tank doing something similar? Is he quietly replacing Ford with someone else, but doing it in a way that won't make headlines? Barry Hunter's comments would suggest that if that's the case, Ford himself didn't even know it was happening yet.
Nah, to be honest, I've really made it competitive for real, to be honest. But for sure, Lamont's a great fighter. He got the skills, like I said before. He got punching power. It was a learned lesson, you know. Shout out to Lamont, Roach, and his whole team, man. Hopefully we can run it back.
The real question now is, who takes over? If Ford is out, that means Tank is either bringing someone new in, or already has someone else calling the shots. The fact that he made this announcement without naming a replacement suggests one of two things. Either he's still figuring it out, or he already has someone lined up but doesn't want to reveal it yet. If it's the second option, then this might have been in the works for a while, and Hunter just wasn't in on it. The way this is playing out feels a lot like what happened with Andre Rozier and Teofimo Lopez. Rozier was the trainer who helped Lopez reach the top, guiding him to his upset victory over Vasily Lomachenko. But after that win, things fell apart. Rozier and Lopez's father clashed over control, and eventually, Rozier was out. Lopez struggled without him, suffering a loss to George Kambosos Jr., and many people believed it was because he didn't have the same guidance in his corner.
Lamont comes in the neutral corner and be like, keep counting. Keep counting. Nobody knew what was going on. That was mayhem.
Well, no, actually, Lamont knew what was going on. He said you should be counting.
Should be
keep counting,
bro.
Do your job.
It was a knockdown, clearly.
At the same time, there are those who think Tank is doing the right thing. They believe that he's grown beyond Ford, that he needs new energy in his corner, someone who can push him in different ways. They point to fighters like Canelo Alvarez, who parted ways with longtime trainer Jose Chepo Reynoso, but only got better under Eddie Reynoso. Maybe Tank sees himself in that position, ready for the next stage of his career with someone new leading the way. I got Calvin tattooed on me. Calvin ain't going nowhere. Calvin is Pops. He ain't going anywhere. Those were Gervonta Tank Davis's words just 6 weeks before stepping into the ring with Lamont Roach. But when fight night arrived, Calvin Ford, the man who had been by Tank's side for years, was nowhere to be seen.
We literally saw the mental breakdown of Tank. Like, again, if you got that elite level Y, you know what you saw. He was intimidated by Roach, and it was like baffling to see. Why was he moving? Because to me, he was intimidated by Roach. To me, Roach was walking.
Instead, Barry Hunter was leading the corner, and for the first time in his career, Tank walked away without a victory. Coincidence? Maybe. But the real story is deeper than just a single fight. Ford's absence wasn't just a random occurrence, it was a shift that no one expected, especially after Tank's strong words about their unbreakable bond. If Calvin Ford was Pops and wasn't going anywhere, why wasn't he in the corner when it mattered most? And why was Tank seemingly caught off guard by it? Because make no mistake, he did not expect to be without his longtime coach. When the fight was announced, the assumption was that Ford would be in his usual spot, guiding Davis like he always had. But then, fight week arrived, and fans noticed something was off.
I'm still rooting with him. I saw the negativity and people, critics talking, but I think he's one hell of a fighter, and I think he's still the top dog.
For years, the sight of Calvin Ford and Kenny Ellis standing beside Tank was as normal as seeing a fighter with gloves on. It was the same dynamic that boxing has seen time and time again. Mike Tyson had Cus D'Amato, Canelo Alvarez has Eddie Reynoso, and Manny Pacquiao had Freddie Roach. These weren't just trainers. They were guiding forces in a fighter's career, people who knew them inside out. So when Barry Hunter replaced Ford in the corner, fans knew something was up. It wasn't just a small change, it was a major shakeup in a team that had been rock solid for years. And even though Hunter is a respected trainer, the energy wasn't the same. The chemistry that had built Tank into a superstar was different, and the result spoke for itself. Tank didn't get the win, marking the first time in his career that he didn't walk out victorious. Was it just an off night? Or did not having Ford in the corner cost him more than he thought?
But the thing about Tank, you can't count on Tank to get tired, because his conditioning is out of this fucking world. He can fight 20, 30 rounds if he wants to. 12 rounds ain't shit. Tank can go. So, yeah, Lamont, he didn't do enough early.
After all the speculation, Calvin Ford finally addressed his absence. Speaking with Fight Hub TV, he made it clear that he wasn't completely out of Tank's camp. "I'm still part of it, just from a different perspective," he said. But what does that really mean? Was this a mutual decision? Or did something happen behind the scenes that forced the separation? Ford insisted that nothing had changed. "We ain't change up anything," he said. "I just took a step back." But taking a step back is a change. And for a fighter like Tank, who thrives on consistency, it's a big one. The training structure may have stayed the same, but fight night was different, and that difference could have made all the difference. The idea that Ford wasn't pushed out, but instead chose to step back, is hard to fully believe, especially when you consider Tank's own words leading up to the fight. If Ford had already decided to step away, why was Tank still saying, "Calvin ain't going nowhere"?
You got 5 judges, there's no way you ever gonna get a split. You know what I'm saying? Because it gotta always be one be that deciding factor. Because with 3, it's like majority. You know what I mean? So, all right, if 3...
One of the biggest questions now is whether this was a one-time thing or if Tank is moving on from Ford entirely. According to Ford, he took this time away to focus on his amateur fighters, something he's been passionate about for years. "You know me, I spend time with my amateurs all the time. That's my peace," he explained. But if that was truly the reason, why now? Why right before one of the biggest fights of Tank's career? Ford admitted that being away from Tank made him realize how much he missed him, and that Tank missed him too. "When I came back to the gym, I could tell," Ford said. But what does that mean for the future? Will he be back in the corner for the next fight? Or was this a quiet way of transitioning out?
When you make it work, then touch the body. No, listen. keep inching to him and make him open up here to make him work. When you get close, he can't fucking fight in the inside. Trust me. How long you been trusting?
If Tank believes he doesn't need Ford anymore, he better be sure he's right. Because if this is the beginning of a permanent split, he's stepping into dangerous territory. Fighters who think they can do it all on their own usually find out the hard way that they can't. What do you think? Share your thoughts below and subscribe for more updates.